Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Subdates 22071 4.6. As the Defiant is pushing offensive on Ralph, I've decided to give the Lovecraft a personal checking over. More so because of the rumour circulating that Ensign Borka stuck his penis in one of the exhausts. And I consider this to be blasphemy. Hello everyone, welcome to the exhibition of stupid people. Did I say that right? Today we're going to start with Roy Chubby Brown. Now I have covered him within this series many times. I was alerted to another more recent incident courtesy of Bethy on Twitter. Hi Bethy. Chubby Brown cancelled again. After Omegon discussed him last year, I made the point to watch. I mean, he's not for everyone, but I see a massive racist Eric Clapton being treated like he's bloody iconic. In all previous instances where we have spoken of Roy Chubby Brown on this channel, he has been cancelled by a venue or by a council, in the sense that if the council owns the building, they're going to pull his performance because he is not up to their standard. Even though, in the vast majority of these venues, he has played there for decades and sold the venue out, which means monetarily, he does in fact benefit the town or city where he is performing, regardless of what it is he is saying on stage. My view on this is quite simple. Money, money, money. But also, he is a comedian. There are many different types of comedian. There are many now that are not considered acceptable. Roy Chubby Brown has rarely been acceptable, but Roy Chubby Brown has always appealed to a certain type of person. How you want to pigeonhole that person is your business. I couldn't care less. Roy Chubby Brown's humour is quite dark, quite sexist. And yes, he will say things that people are afraid to say. Just think of the more recent Telford report that came out confirming 1,000+ people had been subjected to cruel crimes. Roy Chubby Brown will say exactly what that report says and make jokes about the attackers, because they're not worth being considered human. Generalization is a part of it though, and that does run the risk of being considered a certain type of phobic. The council though, in this instance, seemed to care about optics. So Roy Chubby Brown was meant to do a tour this year. 59 people complained to Morecambe Council about his upcoming gig. Lancaster City Council then stepped in and axed the show by stating that his views, his jokes were not compatible with the values of being a fair, diverse and inclusive organisation. What makes this quite amusing really is 59 people complained about the show. No doubt they weren't even going to go in the first place. It's highly likely the show is already sold out, but the council has acquiesced to the demands of 59 people. 3,000+ people, though, signed a petition to reinstate his performance, stressing that if you do not like him, move on. Don't ruin it for other people. And they also pointed out that Royston Vasey, Roy Chubby Brown, is renowned for his charity work. He is everywhere. Roy Chubby Brown's tour manager Richie Hoyle blasted the cancelling of the show, branding it as ridiculous, others pointing out that this is enforced censorship. Some locals spoke up, saying why should the council spoil the fun? Chubbs is what he is. His shows are always sold with a warning. If easily offended, then please stay away. It's personal choice, not a council decision. Others, it's ridiculous that 59 people complain about this comedian, now hundreds are prevented from seeing him. The 59 are not forced to buy tickets to see him. This again is cancel culture gone mad. Treat people like adults and let them choose. Morecambe Council, don't you have anything better to do? Others also pointed out that this is a free speech thing. You shouldn't be deplatforming because you don't like his jokes. And others pointing at the irony of claiming to be inclusive while excluding people who want to go to the show. The irony is quite scrumptious. Now this has a rather interesting end to it, because Roy Chubby Brown was set for all his dates, he was getting ready. He even had 4 shows lined up in Blackpool. Unfortunately, he has been forced to cancel a number of shows because he needs a hip replacement, and has been relying on pain injections to carry on performing. More recently, he has been seen using a Zimmer frame to get around the house. At the age of 77, not a surprise. A hip replacement could put him in a wheelchair, so this operation is very important. So I guess those shows aren't going to happen anyway, really. But Morecambe should not be interfering here and trying to tell people what they can and cannot see. That is the point of this. So next we have to talk about the independent movie Thor, Love and Thunder. If that joke went over your head because you didn't see on the screen the Instagram post, you're precious. Whether you're a viewer of MCU or not, it is not the movie itself I want to talk about, but the reaction to its release, which I found quite amusing. Because apparently, and I saw this via my own phone news alert, fans have been demanding a trigger warning for one particular graphic scene. So what's happened, you ask? In the film, Jane Foster has stage 4 cancer. Much like in the comic books, this is well established. In fact, in the comics, Jane Foster passes away because of the cancer and using the powers of Thor. Again, whether you like the comics, I couldn't care less. These days I don't really read Marvel comics, and the only time I ever see comic pictures, it usually comes from Twitter mocking the feck out of the what if Miles Morales Thor thing, which many have argued to be quite racist when you consider a lot of the phrases, behaviour, mannerisms looks like someone's just googled what do African American people do in the hood and gone by the results. In the film Thor, Love and Thunder, Jane Foster gets chemotherapy treatment. These scenes are important. They add a very serious element to what must be quite a comical movie. Based on the director, it has to be, because Ragnarok is quite funny. I thought it was anyway. Some have taken to Twitter to state that these films need a trigger warning now though, by saying if you're planning to see Thor, Love and Thunder and are sensitive to cancer treatment, it is an extremely prevalent theme and plot driver in the movie. Prepare yourself and take care of yourself if you need to. Others adding that the movie should have a trigger warning for graphic depiction of cancer, and the fact that we didn't know going in is atrocious. If you have medical or cancer triggers, I'd do some light googling on the plot before deciding to see it or not. I knew in the comics that Jane has cancer. It's been mentioned many times since this movie was announced, and yet the cancer scenes still hit hard. Prepare yourselves if you've lost anyone to cancer. If people don't know this going into the movie, chances are they're a casual with too much free money to blow. It would take 5 seconds to Google the mighty Thor to get all the relevant information you need. At this point though, with what I've heard about the MCU, there might be some fatigue, burnout, people just walking away because the same bullshit's happening over and 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 over again. But the movie's still making money. That works. At this point, I think Disney are just inserting every additional side character that they can insert, because at this point, I'm not entirely sure what their direction is for Phase 4. Now, with these requests for a trigger warning, what have other people said? Well, the more diehard fans of Thor have said, "Shut up, you're being stupid." Some simply saying, "Trigger warnings? Seriously? Are people that weak-minded that you can't deal with a dramatic scene? It's not like this is the first movie to do this. How stupid." Another, "As a cancer survivor, I find this extremely stupid." Another person warned, "Sorry kids, a movie studio is under no obligation to give you a trigger warning that spoils the film for everyone. Just in case, you have the internet. Read the spoilers if you're that worried about it." What wonderful advice. I'm surprised they didn't insert a trigger warning because of the minor number of complaints about the lack of trigger warning. If you went to go and see this movie and did not know anything about the characters, chances are you're a moron. If you thought by going to see Thor 4 that you were going to see the mighty Thor take over from Thor as the replacement Thor going forward, well, you might have done a little bit of reading to realise that kinda doesn't happen depending on which version of the comics you're reading. I think we would have preferred Beta Ray Bill at this point. Enough liberties were taken already since they didn't give us the look of Gore to begin with, since they didn't want him to resemble Voldemort. Just thought I'd insert that little nugget of information. If you can't handle a superhero movie where there is loads of violence, all of it staged so much like the WWE, we don't get triggered by that. Jazz hands everyone. But you can't handle something that actually brings you down to earth. It tells me how emotionally stunted you are when watching a movie. Would you like a teddy bear? So on this channel there is a playlist called Shamima Begum's Doodah playlist, because I'm not very creative and names are not my thing. There are 14 videos within that playlist, one of which is a Halls of Injustice, others going through incidents as time has transpired, where Shamima has resurfaced. Currently she resides within Camp something, let's call it Sunshine, I think it might actually be that. She has claimed to renounce her past. She has gone through a lot for someone so young. When she left this country, she was 15. When she was first interviewed, she had lost, at that point, 2 of her 3 children, not long after she lost her 3rd. Shamima wants to come home, lost her citizenship, claimed through the legal system that that was illegal because you cannot be declared stateless. And the UK is held firm in the belief that she should not be here. Some do believe that she is in fact in the United Kingdom anyway. It is open for debate, let's call it that. The BBC, and I'll insert it now, defund the BBC, has decided to make a 2-part documentary on BBC Two and a 10-part audio series for Radio 5, where it will explore the story of Shamima Begum. The filmmaker Josh Baker, who is going to be making this, has said that this is one of the most talked about, yet least understood stories of our time. I keenly await to see how they frame this then as grooming, which is what many arguments seem to centre around. When journalists went to the area where she comes from, in London, they were very much split. 2/3 said, no, she can stay there. The other 1/3 said, well, she was just a girl, just give her a chance. For over 12 months, Shamima has been talking to investigative journalist Josh Baker, giving him what she says is her definitive account of everything that happened to her. Back in 2015, Josh Baker was working on a documentary in an East London mosque when news broke that 3 local schoolgirls had disappeared and were on their way to join ISIS. Baker at the time was filming the mosque, trying to bring the families to get their daughters home. Ultimately, only one would actually survive. The other 2, one I've known is definitely deceased, the other I'm not entirely sure about. The one that survived 7 years ago is Shamima. The alleged attempt of this is to dispel the fiction and unearth new information along the way, and also trying to explain the points of the travel from Bethnal Green to the Caliphate in Syria. I personally think this is a colossal waste of taxpayer money, because this is no doubt going to be used solely as a way of trying to create sympathies here. We know this, and my tolerance, patience, whatever you want to call it, for what she did does not change. And I do not believe Shamima should be allowed back into this country. There is a chance, sure, a very slim one, that she could actually serve as an educator to prevent more people from doing things like what she did. But it is far too much of a risk, I believe. I also don't believe her going to prison in this country would work anyway, especially considering the representation split in our prisons, but also the no doubt argument of violated human rights that will cause us to not put her in prison, just let her walk free. Add to that, I believe she's still married to somebody who has not renounced his ways either. Isn't he also serving in a prison for what he did for ISIS?